So before we get started, here's a few affirmations for when loving yourself is really hard. I accept myself unconditionally. I'm learning to support my best self. The truth is, I'm blessed, loved, and supported. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Sarah V, and today we're talking about 5 reasons why you still don't love yourself. If you started your self-love journey, you're probably getting to a point where you're like, this is not as easy as it seems. Like, it's not all rainbows and kisses and holding yourself and hugging yourself and boom, you're like loved. And now you have self-love, you have self-acceptance. It's really hard because when you start a self-love journey, you're basically looking directly at all your flaws, all the things that are making you not love yourself. So I wanted to do this video to give you reasons why you're finding it hard to love yourself and what's blocking you from actually gaining that self-love, that self-acceptance that you're seeking. Okay, so the first one is you're probably focusing more on your negative experiences than you're focusing on the positive ones. So often we tend to focus on everything that's negative. Something nice happens, someone does something nice for you, they hold the door, someone pays for your coffee in line. But if you have one negative experience, most of the time we tend to focus on just that one negative experience. And in your self-love journey, maybe that's what you might be doing, just focusing all on the negative experiences, the traumatic experiences, instead of focusing on the positive ones. So that's the first thing that you're going to have to kind of think about or really pay attention to, is if you're really just focusing on everything that's negative. The second reason ties kind of into the first one. You don't trust yourself. So it's going to be hard for you to love yourself if you can't trust yourself. And one of the main reasons why we don't trust ourselves is because maybe in the past you've made a mistake and people judge you really harshly on it. So it becomes hard to trust yourself because you feel like you're going to do something wrong. You feel like you're going to say the wrong thing, you're going to make the wrong choices. So you stop listening to your inner voice and you start listening to all the external voices because you're like, you know what? Maybe I don't have what it takes to make the right decisions because everything that I've done has been looked at or judged very harshly, and I don't want to make the wrong choice. So we stop trusting ourselves. We start focusing on what everyone else is saying. The third reason, I know I'm someone who's personally guilty of it. We embrace the self-care activities and avoid the self-love process. So self-love is a process. Like, you're going through it, you're going to start from point A, and then you're going to start from point A where you don't love yourself or you have low love. Is it low? You lack love for yourself. And then you're going to move to the point where you love yourself fully, you embrace yourself, you accept yourself, right? But in the process, self-care is a portion of that. So you're doing self-care activities in a way to help love yourself more. But some of us tend to focus just on the self-care stuff, like having a nice facial, getting our toes done, our nails done, all of that. And I'm guilty of that. I love doing that stuff. But when you really are focusing on the self-love process, it's more so of digging deep into yourself and finding out what's blocking you from loving yourself. And then also figuring out what are your triggers, different things like that. It's not only about, facials and getting your nails done and hair done. Yes, it's a part of the process, but the real process is when you're doing the internal work, because that's when you're going to start loving yourself. I posted on my podcast this morning affirmations for emotional healing. In the affirmation, I talked about a quote from Rumi, which said, "The cure for pain is in the pain." So I thought it was really, profound when I read it, because I'm like, that's so true. Like, in order for you to heal from the pain, you have to dive deep into the pain in order for you to understand where it's coming from, for you to kind of dismantle it, to break it down. You have to go in the pain and you have to feel the feelings that live below your triggers. If you haven't listened to the podcast, go ahead and listen to it. I linked it down below. And it's the emotional healing episode. The fourth reason why you might be finding it hard to love yourself is because you care too much about what other people think. You're more focused on what everyone on the outside thinks about you, and you're not really focusing on what you feel or what you know about yourself. I feel like a lot of times when you're on a self-love journey and you're kind of getting to the point where, you're actually embracing yourself and you go out and you're showing that you love yourself, but the things that you do for yourself, how you take care of yourself, the way you talk to yourself, the way you talk about yourself to other people, it can kind of be off-putting for for some people in the world. And if you let that get to you, it can stop you from loving yourself. So, for instance, imagine going into a room and you step into the room. Certain people will kind of be like, oh, like, she thinks she's too good, or maybe she's a narcissist, or she's egotistical or something, you know what I mean? But if you know yourself and you know that's not who you are, and you know that your self-love process has not brought you to the point of being egotistical or narcissistic or arrogant or something like that, then you don't have to worry about what other people think about you. So you have to get to the point where you know yourself enough to know who you are and be able to stand in who you are and stop listening to the world around you, because it's ultimately stopping you from loving yourself. Okay, so the last reason is you feel like you have to do it alone. You feel like the self-love process, the self-love journey is one that you have to go about on your own. Like, why is it that you don't know how to love yourself? That's something that you should know how to do. You should be able to handle it. And honestly, the fact is, you don't have to do it alone. You can seek help. You can find a therapist. You can find a coach, someone who's going to be there to help you, to guide you through the steps of getting to a point where you start to understand and dig deep into that internal relationship with yourself. Like knowing, like, okay, this is what happened to me, and this is how I'm going to piece it together to show me where ultimately I stumbled in my self-love journey. And like I said, it's a process. It takes time. And if you don't have all the tools to help you get through that process, it's perfectly okay for you to ask for help, to find someone who can show you, like, hey, did you ever think about this? Did you ever think that this is the reason why you stopped loving yourself? Or this situation is what occurred that made you feel, the way that you do about your body, the way that you do about the way that you think about yourself, or the way that you talk to yourself. So the self-love journey can be a challenging one, but it's not impossible. And what happens on the other side of you releasing everything that is no longer serving you is so beautiful. It's so amazing. When you start to love yourself and you start to know yourself, the relationship that you build with yourself is unmatched. Okay, so down below, I've linked my self-confidence planner. It's going to be right here. So that you can get to the point where you're learning how to trust yourself again. You're learning how to focus on the positive aspects or experiences in your life. So go ahead and click the link to get the free confidence planner. And that's all. So I'll see you in the next one.